Hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money is being spent to pay for empty seats in airplanes flying to rural communities. Now, we first showed you in May how many of these planes sit nearly empty, and you're paying for it.
Now, 41 Action News has learned there's a similar program in Kansas, but it's not necessarily paying for empty seats from small airports, but from the state's largest airport. 41 Action News investigator Melissa Yeager joins us with what she uncovered. Melissa?
Well, it's called the Kansas Affordable Airfares Program, and for the past 6 years, it's set aside $5 million each year for a regional partnership to give money to Kansas airports. The idea is to reduce fares and bring service to communities that wouldn't otherwise afford it. But our investigation found the money is paying for empty seats on airplanes from Kansas's largest airport with little oversight. As the first American Eagle flight landed in Garden City, Kansas this March, a Kansas state audit had already declared it late for arrival. Back in 2006, lawmakers started setting aside money to bring affordable air service to communities in Kansas and called it the Kansas Affordable Airfares Program.
Without the Kansas Affordable Airfare Program, we wouldn't be able to provide regional air service in western Kansas.
The program would pay for the empty seats that rural communities didn't regularly fill, so people who live in areas like Garden City could have access to affordable air travel.
It provides cheaper airfares and more flexibility as far as flights.
But in the 6 years since the program started, our investigation found the 2012 grant was the first time the program awarded money to a rural community. That's because the law allows any community that can prove it is lowering fares for a significant amount of Kansans to apply for the grant. We found most of the money from the Kansas Affordable Airfares Program came here to Wichita's Mid-Continent Airport.
We do provide service to the majority of Kansans.
Valerie Wise with the Wichita Airport Authority says the program has helped them lure low-cost carriers, Frontier and AirTran, to Wichita, and in turn reduce airfare prices.
Prior to AirTran starting service in 2002, Wichita had the 10th highest fares in the country. Our fares were 23% higher than the U.S. average. So we can assume if we didn't have low-cost carriers here today that our fares would again be about 23% higher than the U.S. average. They'd be a lot higher than they are today.
In 2011, AirTran received $6.5 million from state and local funds to subsidize flights in and out of Wichita. Frontier received $167,000. But despite receiving the most amount of money to subsidize flights, we found AirTran's flights were relatively empty compared to the other airlines in Wichita. For the first 3 months of this year, both Delta and American Eagle flights were 74% full, while AirTran flights were only 44% full.
I do know that AirTran's loads have not been sufficient, and that's why we have the Revenue Guarantee Program. Frontier's loads have been pretty good all along. But again, with high fuel costs and labor costs increasing, full loads do not mean profits for airlines.
The fund doesn't sit well with Kansas City, Kansas Senator Chris Steininger.
I think the folks that wanted the airport subsidy, they tried to oversell the program, and they basically told everybody this will benefit the whole state except for the KC metro area because we already have KCI.
Senator Steininger called for a state audit of the program last year.
Through the Legislative Post-Audit Committee that exposed some things that were not exactly great about the Fairfares program.
The audit found program administrators overstated how much the additional funding helped lower airfares. Wichita airport officials claim fares went down by 17%, but the U.S. Department of Transportation says it was really 12.7%. Also, the audit found inaccuracies in the estimated number of jobs the program was credited with creating, as were the figures stating Kansas's return on its investment. With the state's pending tax cuts, Senator Steininger believes the money is needed elsewhere.
The program is in place in Kansas fares, even in this year's budget and the past couple of years' budget when we were cutting aid to public schools. The Wichita airport subsidy stayed alive in the budget. And I just think that's a matter of bad priorities.
And we also discovered the Kansas legislature approved another air service incentive program during this last legislative session. The Air Service Incentive Program gives the Metropolitan Topeka Airport $1 million to bring air service back to that community. But the airport director tells me they have a plan in place. They want that to be self-sufficient, so this will expire.
Eventually, I guess, yeah.
Eventually.